This is Priya, and we're here today looking at a data science project of mine that I made over the summer because that's the field I'm going to go into. So here's a project I did in relation to it. Okay, so we have 4 main things we're going to look at, 4 different points we'll hit, and then you'll be free to go. First, you have the project setup, so kind of how I got into this project and my process personally, the data, so we're gonna look at some graphs, and then what can we take from this data, and then our final takeaways of what did I learn from this project. So first thing we have is the project setup. So how did I find this project? How did I make the project? Which will probably be its own separate blog post or video anyway. So I started by searching up data science projects to do, right? Like good places to start. And I found a Reddit post, and this Reddit post was like, hey, there's a really cool, here's a list of Medium articles that are good data science projects. I'm like, oh, that's good, that's cool, right? Netflix catches my eye because, I'm one of the millions of people, maybe billions, probably millions of people that watch Netflix on a regular basis. And so I went to Medium, and it's like, you have to pay for this. And I'm like, well, see, I don't particularly want to pay for this. Or rather, I don't have the income to do that right now. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, let's get the basic directions from ChatGPT on what to do, right? From there, I can take it on myself, because it's just getting it in. So first thing was request your data from Netflix, then you go to the folder and take out the viewing activity.csv file. And that file, it has all of your data in it, and so that's what you use when you're trying to do this project. If you're going to take this yourself, then you can request your data from Netflix. They'll send you a big zip file, you unzip it, extract it, and you go to viewing activity. From there, it's just a matter of what you do with the R script. I used RStudio. Oh wow, that's so perfectly timed. I used RStudio for my coding on this end of things, which I also need a bit of Python knowledge already. So if you're to try this, I'd say learn Python and then learn R, and then go into your own projects like this. Or you could learn as you go. So it's kind of what I'm doing here, since I've only done one kind of project in RStudio. Now we're gonna look at some data. I want to clarify that Debbie is my mom, Mihul is my dad, Nikhil is my brother, and Priya is me. Our profiles are separated by our actual names and not mom, dad, brother, myself. But in relation to me, that's how it is, so I should remember that. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to look at was the total time by profile. So I have the code on the left side of each of these slides, I think, and the output on the right. So we use our libraries Tidyverse and Lubridate. Lubridate I did have to get from GPT because that's time, but Tidyverse is what you use when you're trying to get all these graphs like ggplot and blah blah blah. And so first we had to pull the data in. This data CSV files are called data frames. So if you look here where my mouse is, I don't know if my cursor is being recorded right now. Here, I'll just use this. Okay, where the little red dot is on the screen. I just saved it as data frame because I was kind of lazy. That's what I did the last project. It's okay, it works, and it's easy to remember. So data frame is read.csv, viewing activity.csv. If this doesn't work for you, that means the a root folder that RStudio has been assigned to look at, the viewing activity isn't in. So it's not going to be the exact same file path, but it might be some changes, but From there, we just convert it to we're just changing some time stuff here. It's nothing too crazy. So this is where this slide's looking at, which is the profile summary. So we want to look at all the profile names and then how much time, total time, that they had. And so this is in, I think it's in minutes or hours. I was gonna check. I've watched 4 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine on my account. I did the math for if this was in minutes or hours. Just pretend it's in hours, I think. I think that makes the most sense for 4 seasons, 45 of Brooklyn Nine-Nine on my account, plus some plus whatever's on Netflix of Dungeon Meshi. So, pretend I counted in the measurements. I'll add those in later. But we can see here already that my account is the least used. We use it for just 2 shows, I think maybe 3 now, The Good Place, using Nikhil uses his own account on his own free will, so I think he watches some One Piece on there, maybe some sitcoms. On my dad's account, he also watches on his own, on his own stuff, right? And then my mom watches all of her Korean dramas on there. So she's the currently most used profile is my mom's account. Let's see. Whoop. I wonder if I can just, hello. There we go. Okay. The second part of Chill Time by Profile, I made some box plots. And now if you don't know what a box and whisker plot is, you'll learn it in hopefully algebra 1 or 2 or geometry. I know I learned it my first few years of high school, but a box and whisker plot has the average, mean, and range kind of all in the main box. The line, I believe, is the mean or like the median, and then the lines off to the sides, max and min. So for example, like maximum minutes are up here, right? So the units are kind of janky on this, but just ignore that. So we converted it for seconds just for plotting this. And so once we plotted it, so this is where tidyverse comes in handy, the GG plot, and then your data frame. This is also just how you do things generally in tidyverse, which is the GG plot, data frame, whatever name it might be, plus geom underscore whatever plot you're doing. So like bar or scatter. I think scatter is called something else, but you can check out documentation for that. And then the X and the Y. And of course you can have colors and more factors on top of that. You can have aesthetics, I think. I don't know if my graphs will have that, but I can explain later. But anyway, that is the, So that's, this is more of a demonstration how my mother has like, here, let's say like more here. It shows a wider range, basically. If I had like if I planned out what I was going to say, I could analyze the box and whisker better. But anyway, check out the blog post where I explain this with all the definitions already uploaded. But let's see. Most watched titles. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to look at was the most watched titles, because it's kind of interesting to see what you've watched the most. So overall, between all of Netflix, we have a Korean drama, Squid Game, which is also K-drama. We separate that because we watched it as like a family thing. We don't really include that in the rest of the stuff. Dungeon Meshi, Korean drama. The Witcher, I'm not sure what The Witcher is. I think it's a horror thing, but Korean drama, I think Korean drama. So I'm missing one on my finger, but that's okay. Most of them are all K-dramas, which is interesting to look at, right? Most watched titles, they're all mostly K-dramas. And so if you look at like total time, I'm pretty sure this is also by hours, but I'm not too sure. I should probably remember the measurements a bit better, or at least I'll remember the measurements next time, which is a good thing. Because I remember especially in high school, you have to always label your x-axis with the type of like minutes, hours, seconds, because it's really important to label your axes. And I labeled my axes, title, watch count, but I forgot the measurements of time, which I will fix. And I remember that. Let's see. Okay, and then the third thing was the most watched devices. So if we look at, I have the wrong graph pulled up. Okay, that's fantastic. Hello. Okay, that is disappointing, but I will pull up on screen right now. I will edit this in. The actual most watched, I must have copied it in wrong. I'll check my slides. But the most watched device basically is our TV at home. So, yeah, whoopsies. Okay, third thing is let's analyze. What can we learn from this data? I almost put just analysis, but then I realized I couldn't split the colors, so we have this. So, for my analysis, our final conclusion is that my mom likes to watch K-dramas on our TV the most. Because my mom is the most watched profile, K-dramas are the most watched titles, and our TV is our most watched device, which you can see in our little explanation here. The picture there is Startup, which was one of her first K dramas. I don't know, she shared it with us, so I remember it. So I searched it up. Yay! I don't remember much of the series, but anyway. So we get to this conclusion. We now analyze this by taking each of these parts of the data we've looked at and putting them into one coherent explanation. Think of it like a lab write-up in science class. For me, I haven't done lab write-ups in years, but it's a similar process of asking a question or having a thesis, looking at data, analyzing that data by putting it all together in one explanation, and doing a big old write-up at the end in your lab notebook, which I currently have stuffed under my bed somewhere. Okay. So my final takeaways, what did I learn? See if this will... Okay. So here's what I did learn from doing this whole project. As unserious as this PowerPoint might have been, or a little bit janky in the time and in the most watched devices slide, there is stuff I did learn. So you can use ChatGPT to access Medium articles. I put morally questionable because you should pay for paid content. It's like pirating anime where you probably shouldn't, but you probably still do, at least one point. And so it doesn't give you access to the full Medium article. I will say that. It will instead summarize it for you, which is still really helpful for me, at least, where I want to learn, but it's blocked because I need to pay for it. And I don't want to pay for it. I can't, you know, I'm a college student. And so I got the summary for how to do the first few steps of getting the Netflix data, and from there it was on me. And so I also learned how to install Python and RStudio on a computer, which doesn't seem like a big deal because it's just basic installation, but it was a lot more than just hitting a button. I had to uninstall and reinstall RStudio a few times because I installed it in the wrong location, or the directions or way I installed it was wrong. It was a whole thing. And I ended up installing Anaconda as well, which isn't super useful for this project, but for a different one that I started right after this one, is really helpful because it has both pandas, matplotlib, and numpy. I think that's how you say those. All of those are already installed instead of Python, which doesn't already have all the libraries installed. So I recommend installing Anaconda and configuring RStudio to use Anaconda. So when you do these kind of projects, you already have the libraries accessible to you. I also, last time I made like graphs in RStudio, it was as a collaborative group, but I did this completely on my own, where I was like, oh, okay, now I have to put these I'll put all these pieces together, right? What type of questions to ask when looking at sort of data set, which again, doesn't seem like a big deal, but you know, data analysis is a job title that I maybe want to work with. And so I need to learn how to look at this data. Even though I already know that our final conclusion from our data, that doesn't mean I had the evidence to back it. So this project, even though I probably already knew the answer, was still giving me evidence and a conclusion for something. And then, of course, how to draw conclusions from that data. So I think I'll probably make a better video explaining or walking through or blog post walking through my stuff. So, you know, you should, go to the next slide. You should check my other socials. Okay. The quote is a reference to a really old meme. I'll put it on screen, but ignore this. And it's a quote of a famous person. Anyway, I was messing around with the PowerPoint at this point. But you should check out my LinkedIn, my blog, and you should subscribe and like to this channel because it would really support me. And plus you can follow my data science project journey, which I think will be very interesting. And so if you have any questions about this project, you can leave a comment. I will be as responsive as I can. And if you have any suggestions for more projects in the future, I will happily take on any of them, even if they are behind a paywall, because I will use ChatGPT. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. Bye.